announcement in the Roja case is expected momentarily. This is the alleged murder that has caused such an uproar in the United States and around the world. This scene occurred in the hospital room of Army Captain Lucas Johnson. This is security camera footage that apparently shows Roja, a Talon scientist, causing the death of Major Raymond McIntyre, Johnson's commanding officer. Even the most strident companion supporters are demanding that Roja be tried in a human court of law. President Thompson has been working around the clock to reach an acceptable compromise with the Talon Synod.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American companion Don and President of the United States, Mr. Thompson.
I speak for the Talon Synod. We have had lengthy discussions with President Thompson. Roja will stand trial in human court.
What is the charge against Roja?
Roja has been charged with murder.
3 years ago they came, forever altering the future of humanity. William Boone's life has been destroyed. A man caught between two worlds, assigned protector to the Companions, undercover agent for the Liberation. An alien-implanted cyber virus expands his mind, controlling a bioengineered weapon of unprecedented power. William Boone searches for the truth.
Who will defend Roja?
The Companions have appointed Agent Ronald Sandoval and Commander William Boone to act as Roja's legal representatives.
But they're not lawyers.
Agent Sandoval is an attorney, and Commander Boone has been granted special dispensation by the State Bar of New York to try this case with Agent Sandoval.
Mr. President, how will Roja plead?
Agent Sandoval?
That determination has not yet been made.
Who will hear Roja's case?
Yes, sir.
This is obviously an unprecedented situation. With the approval of Congress, I have appointed Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Evelyn Hill, to preside over the trial court proceedings.
Mr. President, who will prosecute?
New York District Attorney Joshua Dors.
Mr. Dors, will you be seeking the death penalty if Roja is convicted?
Absolutely.
And in a surprise move, President Thompson announced today that the prosecutor for the Roja case will be Joshua Dors, son of Liberation leader Jonathan Dors. At age 31, Joshua Dors became the youngest district attorney in the history of New York City.
All right, let's just go over your testimony one more time here.
We've discussed this already. If something's bothering you, why don't you just lay it on the table?
The judge threw out the security camera footage because we couldn't authenticate it. Now, your testimony is key to convicting Roja. Well, obviously, the Companions wouldn't look too favorably upon you for helping to convict one of their own.
Are you suggesting that I might alter my testimony to help Roja? Hey, you raised the issue. At least have the guts to follow through with your accusation.
Actually, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just asking you.
Well, if you have any doubts whatsoever, just don't put me on the stand.
When did you practice law?
Never. I joined the FBI right out of law school.
Then Roja will not receive a legitimate defense.
What's your point?
You've never practiced law. I only have a master's in criminal justice. We need help.
The Companions would never trust the defense of this case to non-implants. There's too much sensitive information at stake.
That's my point. Our duty is to our client, not the Companions.
Our duty is always to the Companions.
Roja will not receive an adequate defense if we are prohibited from introducing evidence which could prove his innocence.
I am the lead attorney in this case. Don't forget it.
You argued that our refusal to allow Roja to be tried in a human court would damage our relations with the people of Earth.
However, once we agreed to let the trial proceed, we are obligated to abide by the result.
We cannot risk having Roja incarcerated in a human prison. No Talon has ever been so confined. It is unclear what Roja might divulge in such a circumstance.
This discussion is premature.
It was the Synod which called for injecting Roja with the human gene for aggression. Roja should not bear the consequences of this ill-conceived act.
Roja welcomed the opportunity to participate in this experiment. He is ready to make whatever sacrifice is necessary.
Our defense will be that you acted in self-defense because Major McIntyre threatened to kill you.
Will a human jury believe that a Talon was truly in fear for his life from a human?
That is the only defense open to us, Roja.
Not necessarily. If Roja was not in complete control of his action because he was implanted with human DNA, then we should consider a plea of temporary insanity or a similar diminished capacity defense.
Impossible.
That is the true account of what happened.
The only way we can introduce such a defense is to admit to the Talon's experiments in human violence.
But I could never have committed such a violent act without being under the influence of Captain Johnson's unrestrained rage. I am truly ashamed for having caused the death of this human being. I want humanity to understand that.
The Synod will decide the strategy for this trial.
Roja, we may have to put you on the witness stand to show your remorse. Now, the prosecution's gonna try and provoke you. So are you in complete control of your actions?
I have undergone extensive procedures to remove the human DNA from my system. I believe I can now control my rage.
From every corner of the world, people are descending onto Washington, D.C. You'd have to go back to the O.J. Simpson trial of 1995 to find a case that has captivated the entire world as this one has.
Jonathan, why have you never told me that you had a son?
Talon has raised numerous issues that have never been litigated in any court.
Too busy building an empire to concentrate on being a father.
I'm certainly not proud of it.
Some experts.
How does he feel about the companions?
He's supportive, or at least he was the last time we spoke.
Then why is he taking on a case where he's prosecuting a Talon?
Vigorously defend their fellow Talon.
Should have let me bring you in from the back. I can't protect you here.
How many years have you been telling me that? We'll
Did the
just have to
defense
find
have a
out.
problem with the jury selection?
We'll soon find out.
It is a circus atmosphere here today on day one of the Roja trial. The voir dire process has been completed and the jury has been selected. We are told the jury will consist of 7 women and 5 men. However, the defense has filed a motion regarding the makeup of the jury.
I must be on that jury. Do not fail.
You want to control Roja's fate, I understand.
All rise. Court is in session. Chief Justice Evelyn Hill presiding.
We have agreed on a jury. What's the purpose of your motion?
Although we have agreed on the human component of the jury, the defense believes that there must be a representative number of Talons on the jury.
I've read your brief, but I'm not inclined to agree with your conclusions.
Your Honor, the Constitution guarantees a trial by a jury of your peers. Certainly, a jury comprised solely of humans could not be considered the defendant's peers.
Your Honor, when this crime was committed, the defendant was living and working here on Earth. So when the defendant killed Major McIntyre, his peers were human. Furthermore, I exercised my peremptory challenges to reject potential Talon jurors that were questioned.
I am loath to upset the complex procedure involved in selecting a jury. However, the issues in this trial are unprecedented. I will not agree to place an equal number of Talons on the jury. But fairness dictates that the jury shall include one Talon. The defense has resubmitted Zoor for consideration. Will you accept this selection or reopen the voir dire process?
No, Your Honor, we accept Zoor.
Yeah, but this is different. You've never let yourself be this exposed before.
You know, you said the same thing my first day of high school and college. You always say it.
Yeah, and I'm right. I'd say the same thing to my own son, but he's not a target for some lunatic looking to make a name for himself.
Hey, I'm not arguing, but you've always been there to protect me.
Yeah, and that's why your dad hired me.
You know, you've got to learn how to relax.
Yeah, I'll relax when this trial's over and you're safe and sound.
All right, already. Hi.
Hey.
Listen, thanks for meeting me here. Needless to say, I've been working around the clock at this point. I hope you don't mind Chinese takeout food.
No, not at all. But if you do in this case, I expect a real meal.
No problem. As a matter of fact, dinner is on regardless of the result.
Ha. So, you're conceding that you have some doubts as to whether you can win this case.
Well, humility sells well to the jury.
Yeah, you pretend you're in it for the glory, but that's not what it's all about, is it?
Well, what do you think it's about?
I think you really care about the law. And you wanted a case that would prove to the whole world that nobody is above the law, not even a Talon.
Yeah, that is exactly why I took this case. And why I can't lose it. I know you had an opportunity to spend some time with my father while you were shuttling him around for the companions.
Yeah, I did.
Did you, get to know him at all?
We had a few conversations.
Well, I'd be interested in knowing your observations about him. We didn't get a chance to know each other very well.
He's very intelligent. Extremely focused. And, not the warmest man I've ever met in my life.
Did he ever mention me?
No. I'm sorry to say he didn't.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Will be sequestered with the rest of the jury until a verdict is reached. You will not be able to communicate with him.
If Zoor is included on the jury, it could hurt Talon credibility.
Please explain.
If all the human members of the jury are in favor of a conviction, and only Zoor wants to hold out for an acquittal, the public will not be satisfied.
I can assure you that the Synod has instructed Zoor to exercise his judgment in accordance with human principles.
Then why was it so important to have a Talon on the jury?
Why do you continue to question my strategy in this case?
Because I don't agree with it.
My direction is clear. Is the Synod satisfied with my performance?
We are.
Then I would ask Commander Boone be removed from the defense table. His ruminations are unproductive and distracting.
Commander Boone's opposing point of view will only strengthen you. He will remain.
Please recount for the court the events of August 20th.
I was at Veterans Memorial Hospital searching for Roja. As I was running down the corridor, I could see through a glass wall into the room of Captain Lucas Johnson.
And what exactly did you see?
Roja was clutching the head of Major Raymond McIntyre. After a moment, the Major slumped to the floor.
And what did you do next?
I ran into the room to help Major McIntyre, but by that time, Rohan had already disappeared.
And did you attend to the Major?
Yes, I did, but he was already dead.
Thank you, Captain.
This is my solemn promise. No one shall sit in judgment over you.
Captain, did you see what motivated Roja to attack Major McIntyre?
When I first saw Roja, he was already clutching the head of Major McIntyre.
So it is possible, then, that Major McIntyre threatened Roja prior to the attack?
I wouldn't know.
That'll be all. Thank you.
You may step down.
What kind of cross-examination was that?
Precisely the kind I believe was appropriate.
Your Honor, I have some additional questions for this witness.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Captain, were you aware that Major McIntyre and Captain Johnson were involved in the kidnapping of Don?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, I'm trying to establish that the relationship between Major McIntyre and Captain Johnson led Major McIntyre to attack the defendant, Roja. As an officer who has commanded troops in combat, Captain Marquette is qualified to testify to this kind of relationship.
I'll allow it. You may answer the question.
Yes, Major McIntyre was Captain Johnson's commanding officer.
Did Major McIntyre feel responsible for Captain Johnson's medical condition?
Objection. The witness cannot testify to the victim's state of mind.
I'll rephrase. If you were to put yourself in Major McIntyre's shoes, would you feel responsible for Captain Johnson?
It is my understanding that Major McIntyre volunteered some of his best soldiers, including Captain Lucas Johnson, for this assignment, which resulted in Captain Johnson's illness. So, if I had done the same, then yes, I would be responsible.
Captain, how would you react to the endangerment of one of your soldiers?
I would do everything in my power to protect them.
Would that include killing anyone who you considered a threat?
Yes, it would.
So, in your expert opinion, did Major McIntyre consider the Talons a threat to the safety of Captain Lucas Johnson?
Yes, he did.
Thank you, Captain.
And the most solid defense arguments today were made not by lead counsel Ronald Sandoval, but surprisingly by second chair William Boone. Mr. Boone elicited testimony suggesting that the defendant may well have acted in self-defense in the killing of Major McIntyre.
We have tangible evidence of Talon experimentation on humans. We just can't waste this opportunity to let the world know about it.
Boone's walking a fine line here. I hope he's up to it.
Yeah. If he tries to get the really sensitive information out in court, the Talons will know he's been compromised.
Joshua likes to win, like me. Trust me, he'll jump at the chance to discredit the Talons if it helps him win.
This is our chance to show the world what the Talons are doing. It's all right here.
Well then, we'll just have to make sure that Joshua gets this disc, won't we?
My boy. Hey. Are you ready to make the ultimate sacrifice? Are you? You're my hero.
Please sit down.
Did you cause the death of Major Raymond McIntyre?
Yes. Apparently I did.
Why?
The Major burst into Captain Johnson's room with his weapon aimed at me, ready to fire.
Was Major McIntyre yelling?
Yes.
Get away from him.
He was telling me to get away from Captain Johnson.
Did you believe that Major McIntyre was about to discharge his weapon?
Yes.
What happened next?
I knocked the weapon from Major McIntyre and instinctively applied pressure to his head as a defensive measure.
Did you intend to kill Major McIntyre?
No.
Thank you. Your witness.
So, it's your testimony that your defensive measure of applying pressure to Major McIntyre's head was purely a reaction of self-defense.
Yes.
Yet, you did not intend to kill him?
No. In the heat of the moment, I reacted violently.
Well, were there any other factors which would have caused you to react so violently?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Come on, isn't it true that you were injected with the DNA of Captain Johnson in a secret Talon experiment?
Objection! There is absolutely no foundation for this baseless accusation.
Sustained.
And you didn't receive all of Captain Johnson's DNA. You only received the genes linked to aggression and violence. And
Objection! Supposition!
You weren't even in control of your own actions
Counselor,
anymore.
you're out
just
of line.
escaped
I've
with the
sustained the
secret-containing
objection.
experiment that failed.
Objection! Supposition!
One more word and I will
You're
have
the rage of Captain
arrested.
Johnson's overtaken you. Well, all I'm thinking about right now is this case. And then after the trial, we can go ahead and put everything into perspective.
Was it your goal from the outset to discredit the companions?
No, I have one goal, and that is to prove to the world that we are a nation of laws, and that true freedom can only exist where everyone, including the Talons, are bound by those laws.
Do you think the judge is going to declare a mistrial?
Well, I can't really comment on that right now, can I?
Will you be introducing more evidence in regards to the experiments?
We'll just have to wait and see.
And the stunning revelations in the Roja trial today have reverberated throughout the world. Concerned citizens are demanding to know if there is truth to the allegations of secret Talon experiments. Chief Justice Hill has ruled that no additional evidence on the alleged Talon experimentation can be admitted. The judge agreed with the defense contention that all of Mr. Doerr's evidence was uncorroborated, and that Roja's face blush was insufficient to justify further questioning on the issue of Talon experiments.
Good call. Joshua reacted exactly as I expected.
Let's remind ourselves what is not at dispute in this case. That the defendant caused the death of Major Raymond McIntyre with his bare hands. Now, the defendant claims that he acted in self-defense, yet Major McIntyre, a decorated SI veteran, did not have time to fire even a single shot, even though, according to the defendant's own testimony, the Major entered the room with his weapon drawn, ready to fire. Now, the defendant stated that he knocked the Major's gun away, and then applied a Talon grip to the sides of Major McIntyre's head with sufficient pressure to kill him. An eyewitness has corroborated this testimony. Now, the defendant's use of deadly force can only be justified if he was in fear for his life. Now, this was clearly not the case here, because at the time that the defendant killed Major McIntyre, the Major was unarmed and at the mercy of the defendant. Therefore, as a matter of law, the defendant's actions cannot be self-defense. And you have no choice but to find the defendant guilty of murder. Thank you.
Mr. Dawes presents a rather eloquent and compelling appeal. There's only one problem. The reasoning is incorrect. Let's examine additional facts that are not in dispute. Although Mr. Dawes continues to refer to Major McIntyre as a decorated war veteran, some of his more recent activities are far less impressive. Assault, kidnapping, crime in any galaxy. A heavily armed McIntyre broke into a high-security facility and threatened to kill the defendant in retaliation for what he considered unfair treatment of his friend, Captain Johnson. Some of you might respect the Major for his loyalty. Maybe you wish you had the courage to do the same thing. But there is one incontrovertible fact. His actions violated the law. When Mr. McIntyre pointed the gun at the defendant and threatened to kill him, the law allowed the defendant to protect himself by whatever means. If an experienced soldier threatened to kill you with a loaded gun pointing directly at your chest, what would you do?
This Major obviously had a vendetta against the companions. He kidnapped Dawn, for goodness sake. And all I know is that if anyone pointed a loaded gun at me, I'd do anything to defend myself. I vote not guilty.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't agree at all.
Guilty.
Please explain yourself.
Let me make sure I understand your system. For us to acquit Roja, we must believe he was acting in self-defense. Is that correct?
Yes.
To act in self-defense, one must believe one's life is in danger. A Talon would never have to kill a human in self-defense, because humans do not have the ability to kill Talons. And every Talon knows that.
A 9mm handgun can't kill a Talon?
Our physical form consists primarily of energy. It is impervious to bullets. Examine for yourself. This is not a proud moment for me or any Talon. We honor and respect Earth's customs. Roja must pay for the violent act of murder that he has committed.
Order! Order! Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
How do you find?
We find the defendant, Roja, guilty of murder.
Order! Order! I said order!
And we sentence the defendant to the maximum penalty, death.
Order! Order!
And the world was rocked not once, but twice, as the most watched trial in history ended in a guilty verdict. Chief Justice Hill has scheduled the formal sentencing of Roja for tomorrow.
Not right now.
Mr. Dawes, are you satisfied with the verdict?
Well, the people have spoken, and they've said clearly that everyone is accountable under the law.
Did the jury need to return a death sentence to prove that point?
Well, I think what's important here is the sanctity of the jury system. I respect their decision.
Shoot me! I'll let go of this, and we all blow!
Get away! Willie! Nothing you can do!
You put the companions on trial, and this man is the arm of the devil! How did you let this happen?
You screw the Psycho and he takes Dawes with him.
Psycho isn't my target.
horrifying. Just horrifying. A suicide bomber has just succeeded in killing himself, and quite possibly his target, Roja prosecutor Joshua Dawes.
Stand back!
The death of Willie Collier, bodyguard to Joshua Dawes, has been confirmed. That is Commander William Boone with Joshua Dawes.
I'm sorry.
Do you believe the verdict is incorrect?
I do.
But Roja has killed a human. Should he not pay for that crime?
Yes, but Roja shouldn't be put to death if he wasn't in complete control of his actions.
I believe that your legal system allows for recourse to a higher authority.
Only if there's sufficient grounds for an appeal. Right now, I can't see that any reversible error was committed.
If it is only the punishment that you believe was unjust, then perhaps you should focus your attention in that area.
Order! I'm prepared to formally sentence the defendant. First, however, the defense has requested to be heard.
Your Honor, the defense moves that the court set aside the death sentence.
On what basis?
In this case, Your Honor, I would argue that the death penalty violates public policy. That would render the sentence moot.
With all due respect, Your Honor, it would be unconscionable to frustrate the will of a jury that has so clearly spoken.
I'm not inclined to quash a good faith request by the defense to present arguments, especially in a death penalty case. I'll hear counsel tomorrow on this issue.
How dare you! Embarrass me in open court?
Embarrass you? We're talking about a life here.
That isn't the point. Why would you attempt to overturn a jury verdict?
I was under the impression that the Synod wanted me to defend Roja.
It was the Synod's desire that we operate within the bounds of human custom in this instance.
How did your actions serve the interest of the companions?
I am following the desires of the Synod. That's how I'm serving the companions.
Mr. Dawes.
For purposes of this current motion, my burden is to demonstrate the fact that capital punishment does not violate public policy. As a matter of fact, capital punishment is exercised in cultures throughout the world, including the United States, where this crime was committed. Why? Well, for several reasons. Deterrent. Society's need for a sense of fairness. Revenge. Protection. The fact that capital punishment exists in jurisdictions throughout the world for reasons that are not illegal nor immoral more than meet this burden. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Boone.
Your Honor, classic death penalty arguments are irrelevant in this case because I concede that much of the world agrees that capital punishment is an appropriate punishment. So I'm not here to argue for or against capital punishment. However, it is the defense's position that in this case only, a death sentence is against public policy. Why here? Because in this case only, we're talking about putting an alien being to death, not a human being. If we choose to put a member of our own species to death, so be it. The majority has ruled. But an alien being? One we've only known for 3 years? Are we so arrogant as a species, as human beings, to presume that we know the impact of killing a member of an alien species, even if that species has given us the right to do it? I hope not. I really hope not. Thank you, Your Honor.
Order! I will not use this forum to comment on public policy. Whether capital punishment is appropriate is the domain of the lawmakers, not the courts. However, defense counsel's arguments are compelling. I will not be responsible for approving the death sentence of a being I do not yet understand. At some future point, we may determine that the death sentence is appropriate for a Talon. And then the defendant's sentence can be revisited. Until that time, I order Roja to be incarcerated in a joint human-Talon facility.
Your Honor, the defense requests that Roja be remanded to the custody of the Talons for a reasonable period sufficient to arrange his affairs.
Your Honor, the defendant has been convicted of a capital offense.
Is counsel agreeable to negotiating a mutually acceptable procedure that would allow the defendant the time he has requested?
I am, Your Honor.
So ordered.
Will.
Excuse me, just...
Stam good lawyering.
Thanks.
And I'm satisfied. We get our point. And if the Talons are bound by our laws, then I can rest comfortably.
We better make sure that the Talons continue to be bound by our laws.
Listen, thanks. Thanks for everything.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dawes.
Go.
May we speak with you?
You earned it. I'll continue to search for grounds for an appeal. We'll make new law if we have to.
You have my great admiration and respect.
Your death at the hands of the humans would have served the Talons well, by further convincing humanity that we honor its ways.
Is that why you persuaded the other jurors to convict me?
Of course. But William Boone took that away from you.
He fought for me.
We cannot cleanse your system of the human DNA. Such an impurity in the Talon commonality poses an unacceptable danger to the Talons. Your choice is clear.
Tell William Boone that despite my ultimate fate, his defense of my life has made me proud to carry a piece of humanity within my being.